Mais je pense que ça va cacher le... Ouais, vas-y, vas-y. Mais là, ici, prends-le comme si... Non, mais ça, tu vas-tu bien? Ouais, donc. Tiens, des vrais... avec ça ici, en plus. Ils sont fous. J'ai l'impression que c'est un... Fait que pendant qu'on voit la Cour suprême...
Cool. Are you guys on board?
I'm starting politics, so we're not from the States. Where are you from? Yes.
I'm an animal. Northeast. Well, we have camel, which Canadians, right? So it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. I was alive with you. Okay.
Yeah, I think the congressman will probably end up.
All we got is over there.
Check.
I'm the only one who got it. Who look like us. And they're very, they're very far. I don't like to think they're like quiet.
Sort of stoop down to a normal person's height.
Yeah, test. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Do we want to put a DJI mic up here? Oh, my man.
All right.
We're just waiting on good, then we'll get started.
Although, what number is he?
He is second to last, third to last.
Started.
All right.
Come on up, gentlemen.
Yeah, we'll just loiter around.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, come on, you bet.
And then the order, you guys introduce the person after you. That makes sense? Rather than me jumping up here, I don't need. Yeah.
You have an order.
All right, everybody have audio check. 1 2 1 2. Hi, my name is Dudley Brown. I'm the president of the National Association for Gun Rights. We're the largest gun rights group in America because the institutional gun lobby clearly doesn't care about us. We're standing here in front of the U.S. Supreme Court and 55,000 petition signers, all of whom are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to dismiss the case of Mexico versus Smith & Wesson. Now, this is a blatant attempt by a foreign power to use our courts to impose European-style gun control on American citizens. Now, I was in Geneva, Switzerland in August for the Arms Trade Treaty, representing gun owners there. And I can tell you that Mexico openly called for all their countries, the signatories of the Arms Trade Treaty, to file similar cases, just like theirs, in an end run around Congress. This is clearly not what our founders intended. It's clearly what is not allowed by the Constitution, but that's what they're trying to do. And the Supreme Court must weigh them in, rein them in. So, unfortunately, Senator Cruz couldn't be here today. He had to fly back to Texas. So, I'd like to introduce Congressman Darrell Issa.
Thank you, Dudley. Signing on to this amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court was one of the great pleasures of my career. For 24 years, this kind of a group has grown as this court has recognized the attack on the Second Amendment. The reality is this is an attack on the Second Amendment. But let's mention something else that I think is equally important. It's an attack on the sovereignty of our nation. Nations around the world have made agreements between each other. They call them treaties. The fact is, we have made no such treaty not to sell our weapons around the world. Just the opposite. The United States has been the producer and distributor of weapons for public safety, for defense, and the like for generations. And for Mexico to try to bypass the U.S. laws and thus the U.S. sovereignty is an attack that cannot be tolerated. So we will be asking the Supreme Court to go to the fundamentals, not just of the Second Amendment, which effectively putting these companies out of business through litigation would do, but more importantly, to defend the sovereignty and the rights of the United States and our people to make laws and to have such industries as we like. If we do not do it now, the attack will continue on industry after industry. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce Representative Klein for his comments. Klein.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dudley Brown, and all the incredible folks at the National Association of Gun Rights, who are always relentless in the fight to protect and defend America's Second Amendment liberties. You know, back in May, I proudly joined Senator Cruz and Congressman Issa's amicus brief in the Mexico v. Smith & Wesson case, and I thank them both for their leadership in this critical matter. You know, Mexico's frivolous lawsuit is nothing more than a pathetic attempt to unjustly pin the blame of violence perpetrated by Mexican cartels onto American firearm manufacturers. I would like to remind them that our God-given Second Amendment freedoms are not a scapegoat for the Mexican government. If the Mexican government wants to blame someone for the cartel's atrocities, how about looking in the mirror? Their inability to combat crime is a testament to their failed policies and inadequate leadership. Instead of confronting this reality, Mexico is attempting to hijack our judicial system dismantle our sovereignty, and destroy our Constitution. We will not allow anti-gun tyrants, foreign or domestic, to violate our unalienable right to keep and bear arms. Because as with any attack on our Second Amendment liberties, shall not be infringed is not a suggestion. It is a supremacy clause that will be vigorously defended. Our Second Amendment rights should never be subjected to those heinous attacks because a foreign government can't get their act together. In fact, none of our unalienable constitutional rights or an ounce of our sovereignty will we allow to be threatened in this brazen manner. I'm proud to be here in front of the U.S. Supreme Court with my Second Amendment defending colleagues to take a stand against Mexico's senseless attempt to strangle American firearm manufacturers and to strip the American people of our God-given Second Amendment rights. The Declaration of Independence, the very birth certificate of our nation, clearly states, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, meaning it is the responsibility of our government to secure the people's Second Amendment rights. We take that responsibility very seriously, which is why we are here today. So I urge the Supreme Court to choose common sense, uphold the rule of law, and protect our constitutional freedoms by throwing out Mexico's baseless lawsuit. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to my friend Chip Roy.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
Thanks, brother.
Are you guys kidding?
I appreciate the National Association of Gun Rights, and I appreciate my colleagues for coming here today. We're standing here in front of the United States Supreme Court asking that court to defend the Second Amendment rights of the American people. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
In that year.
The irony of Mexico, the irony of Mexico,
It wasn't made this year.
the irony of Mexico coming into the United States and filing suit when it is Mexico that has allowed the cartels to be armed and their citizens not to be armed. The irony of Mexico coming to the United States, infringing on our sovereignty, I think is rich with respect to what we must do to defend the Second Amendment of the United States.
Second Amendment means nothing.
Mexico's lawlessness is causing death to the American people.
How dare you?
Mexico
Blame this on Mexico.
is allowing cartels to kill the American
Because
people.
Your kids killing their own kids.
And the fact of the matter is,
In the schools, they're your
the fact of the matter is, let me look directly at Mexico and the Mexican government and tell you that we have a phrase in Texas, and it's called "come and take it." You want to meet us? You come to Gonzales. You come to San Jacinto. We've had that fight before, and it didn't work out very well. We will defend the Second Amendment of the United States without question. Thank you. I'll hand it back over to my friend Eli Crane.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you guys for being here today. Obviously, we're here today because Mexico is alleging that U.S. Firearms Company are aiding in the trafficking of firearms into Mexico's. Really? What proof do you guys have of that? I strongly urge the Supreme Court to take down this lawsuit and dismiss it. Sounds like a deflection to me of where the real responsibility lies. They don't want to deal with their own organized crime. They don't want to deal with the cartels. If you want to stop violence in Mexico, if you want to stop violence in Mexico,
in every state.
You should start by looking at your cartels and your corrupt politicians that are in bed with them.
Oh my God, it's all about Mexico, really?
I would also warn the Mexican government to tread lightly with these lawsuits. It's pretty clear that they brought these lawsuits under a weak, incompetent administration of the Biden-Harris administration. Well, I've got news for you. We have a new administration coming into town that will not tolerate this. And if you want to open Pandora's box by having Mexico sue the United States and our gun manufacturers who are providing the American citizens the ability to bear and keep arms, lawfare can flow both ways. We have plenty of grievances with Mexico and their inability to stop the cartels and the 100,000 Americans that are dying every single year because of fentanyl. So once again, I urge the Supreme Court to dismiss this case. And this is just beautiful watching this heckler and protester over here who doesn't want to hear our argument. She just wants to be loud and annoying. Well, congratulations, ma'am. You have been 100% effective. Yeah, no, you don't want to hear our arguments. So you just sit here and run your mouth.
You're a liar.
You just run your mouth and you're loud. Yeah, you are.
No,
we're actually talking to the American people here.
And I'm an American
Thank you.
citizen.
Yeah, so am I.
So
maybe you should read the Constitution.
Maybe you should read it. Maybe you should.
Yeah, I have read it.
Because I've been behind.
And we have a right to bear and keep arms. And you don't want to see that continue anymore.
Second Amendment.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Was written in that time period. It's not the Second Amendment
time right after
anymore.
we're done. So.
And now I want to. Andy Biggs isn't here. Who else? I want to welcome my colleague from Tennessee, Andy Ogles.
Big white man who's going to tell me what to do. Shut up.
Well, we want to thank you all for being here today. We've heard from advocates for your Second Amendment, my colleagues from the Village Idiot. I think what we have to recognize is that without a Second Amendment, there wouldn't be a First Amendment.
That's right.
Her right to stand here and to say what she says is because of the Second Amendment, because of my colleagues who have worn the uniform and protected this country. That someone can stand here disrespecting the fact that these heroes shed blood to defend her right. It's a right that I take seriously, and she clearly does not. But it should be noted that you have a foreign nation infringing on our sovereignty. You have a foreign nation who is trying to usurp our Constitution. And I'll say this. We all know that this lawsuit is frivolous. It has no standing. And it is a direct attack on your freedom, even her freedom. And I would encourage the Trump administration to act swiftly with tariffs on any country that comes after our Second Amendment right, who infringes on our right to bear arms and defend our families, who would betray the bloodshed by our veterans. I love this country. I love my right to bear arms. Thank you all for being here. With that, I will introduce my esteemed colleague, Ms. Tenney.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to thank Senator Ted Cruz and also Darrell Issa. It's a real honor to join these fine gentlemen and constitutional scholars in standing up on this amicus brief. It's very important that we stand up for our sovereignty and our constitutional rights. I come from the district where Remington Arms is one of the longest continuously manufacturing gun manufacturer in the country, was lost in New York because of bad laws. We now have a foreign country interfering with the gun rights of American citizens. I stand proudly for the sovereignty and the constitutionality. We know that we've now got to rely on the Supreme Court. Many of these gentlemen also joined me in a amicus brief that had a landmark Supreme Court decision written by the great Justice Clarence Thomas, preserving our concealed carry rights in New York State, only to be overturned by a lawless, unconstitutional law in New York State, which we're continuing to fight in the courts. I am grateful for these great patriots and conservatives here, constitutionalists, who stand for our gun rights. Our Second Amendment rights are from God and they're sovereign. And I'm so grateful to all of you for standing here. I'm also will join with Mr. Ogles in celebrating our First Amendment rights. No other country in the world celebrates our First Amendments like we do, while we're being heckled by a person who doesn't understand all the rights of all American citizens to debate in the public sphere. So thank you so much, Dudley. It's great to join you and these great patriots. It's my honor to stand with you, and we're hoping that the Supreme Court will do right by the United States and stand up to the cartels from Mexico who are funding this lawsuit against our innocent gun owners and also our manufacturers here in America, who are providing not only firearms for our shooting sports and also for our protection, but also for our military. We're grateful. Thanks so much, everyone. And now I think...
Hello, everyone. My name is Hunter King, Political Director for the National Association for Gun Rights. I want to thank all of you truly all of you for coming today, and to our list of distinguished speakers. As you've already heard, we stand before you addressing a critical threat to the very foundation of American rights and sovereignty. This isn't merely a legal case. It's an attack on the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law. Congress enacted the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act to prevent these kinds of outrageous lawsuits, yet here we are, facing an attempt by a foreign nation to circumvent our laws and undermine our Constitution. Let's be clear, this lawsuit is not about justice. It's about leveraging our courts to force European-style gun control upon America, a country that prides itself on freedom, independence, and the right to bear arms. Today we are not alone in defending the Constitution. Over 30 members of Congress, led by Senator Cruz and Representative Darrell Issa, are standing with us in opposition to Mexico's overreach and supporting the rights of American citizens. Their leadership reminds us that this issue goes beyond politics. It's about preserving the core principles that define our nation. Behind us are the names of over 50,000 Patriot Americans and National Association for Gun Rights members who are calling on the Supreme Court to put a summary end to this subversive attack on our gun rights. We urge the Supreme Court to heed these voices and reaffirm the protection that Congress intended by the PLCAA. We call on the court to give Mexico's lawsuit a resounding no and to uphold the sovereignty of the United States. To our fellow citizens, let's not take our freedoms for granted. If we allow one foreign nation to dismantle our Second Amendment, what part of our Bill of Rights is next? We must remain vigilant, we must stand strong, and we must once and for all defend our right to keep and bear arms. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Congressman, I'd like my Congressman Good to say a few words.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so very much for being here. My name is Bob Good from Virginia's 5th District. You know, Smith & Wesson versus Mexico should never have been brought before the Supreme Court because our laws are clear. Gun manufacturers acting in good faith cannot be held liable for criminal violence, there's no such thing as gun violence, criminal violence from misusing firearms. Firearms manufacturers don't produce their products for the purpose of committing criminal acts, of course. And the Supreme Court should not let a foreign country interpret our laws. But Mexico would rather sue U.S. companies than do anything to crack down on their crime problem perpetrated by their cartels. Mexico wants to implement gun control in the U.S. while seizing assets from and bankrupting law-abiding businesses such as Smith & Wesson. Meanwhile, here in America, the left doesn't understand that guns are not the problem, criminals are the problem. If the Supreme Court does not dismiss this case and allows Mexico to prevail, it will open a back door for U.S. companies to be subject to gun control laws in foreign countries. So thank you to my colleagues for being here today to stand up for one of our most precious God-given rights, for which we have the unique protection among nations in the world that protect that God-given right, not just to self-defense, but to ensure that this government doesn't become tyrannical, and that's what the founders intended with the Second Amendment. So thank you to National Association for Gun Rights. Thank you to my colleagues for leading the charge to inform the public in this country about the threat to our Second Amendment rights. And folks, what you see on display is the left. The left cannot stand the truth. Truth is on our side. The law is on our side. The Constitution is on our side. And right is on our side. And with that, I yield back.
Yield back all the way to the end of the line.
I think what we'll do, rather than take individual questions from reporters, maybe she'll be busy, or maybe the paddy wagon will come by and get their escapee. So, are there any questions, and for who would you address it to? I think we're okay. Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Apologize, but give me a text me. Let me know when you come out.
Yeah. You've got mine.
Want to get pictures with anybody?
Hey, it's nice to meet you.
I know. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
I've met you.
How you doing?
I think you're gun event, like at the Second Amendment caucus for doing conferences into those.
Well, I mean, Thomas is
Yeah, you missed the show.
Thomas is a
I got the into my triangle.
Yeah.
He was some of the Remington stuff and all that we were doing. That we did the concealed carry case for the Roman case. I led that because I got 170.
Well, that's too bad. Wait, aren't the police officers carrying guns here too?
Yeah, they're police officers.
Well, so am I, but